we're going to move into the Villains of History section of the podcast. So, Caleb, what is the villain you have chosen to study this week, and how can we not become like them?
Great question. And as always, I'm going to start out with a little story, and I'll let you guess at the end who the villain is, and then I'll tell you.
Right.
Okay. I want you to imagine this. You wake up before sunrise, not because you chose to, but because everyone does. There's no alarm clock, no work schedule, just a voice shouting outside. You're told to leave your home immediately. No explanation, no negotiation, no time to pack properly. You can only take what you can carry. The streets are full of people, families, elderly, children, all walking in the same direction. Cars are abandoned, hospitals are emptied, shops are shut down. And you don't know where you're going.
Wow.
You just know you can't stay. Days turn into weeks. You're placed into forced labor, rice fields, long hours, little food, no medicine. Talking too much is dangerous. Asking questions is dangerous. Wearing glasses is suspicious.
Okay.
People around you start disappearing, sometimes at night, sometimes after being taken for re-education. And the scariest part, no one explains anything. There's just one idea repeating everywhere. The old world is gone. We are building a new one.
Whoa.
Who do you think this is?
Is somebody who's alive still?
No.
Okay. Is it Pol Pot?
It is.
Okay.
It's a Pol Pot.
Pol Pot.
P-O-L Pot.
Okay. I just knew there was an Asian bad guy out there. So my guess was either Kim Jong-un or Pol Pot. Pol Pot?
I think it's pronounced Pol Pot.
Pol Pot.
Pol Pot.
Bad guy. Cambodia, right?
Bad guy. Yes, Cambodia. Okay. Very good job.
That's all I know.
So he was, all right, well, we'll dive into it then. I'll let you know a little bit more. So Pol Pot was the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia.
The Khmer Rouge.
So is it Khmer Rouge?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, the Khmer Rouge was a radical communist regime that ruled in Cambodia from 1975 to 1979.
Okay, rather short.
Yes. So we're talking about Pol Pot. He's like I said, the leader of Khmer Rouge. And at his core, he attempted something very extreme.
Okay.
A total reset of society. No cities, no money, no religion, and no intellectual class.
Wow.
Everything had to be rebuilt through forced rural labor. What makes this story important isn't just what happened, it's how somebody gets to the point of believing that this is necessary. So what kind of thinking do you think leads someone to believe they can reset an entire society?
I mean, being narcissistic, delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it could be somebody who's just very inspired to see change. Like, it's not always a psycho person who thinks they can change culture, but yeah, really ambitious and yeah.
What do you, I'm going to ask a different question.
Okay.
Just for fun. Great answer, first of all. But this question is, what do you think his child rearing looked like if he became this type of person?
It was either like super loose and chill and you can do whatever you want, or extremely authoritarian, like strict. We have to do things a certain way. This is the only right way.
Okay.
Probably that one.
Well, let's dig in, see if you're right. Pol Pot wasn't always a dictator. He was born in 1925 in Cambodia as, this is his original name, Saloth Sar.
Salazar.
Yeah, he was born into a relatively well-off farming family, as it turns out. So here are some key parts of his early life. As a child, he was sent to a Buddhist monastery school. He later studied in Phnom Penh, then briefly in France. In France, he was exposed to Marxist and communist ideology, and he joined the left-wing intellectual circles there. Here's what matters, though. He didn't become radical in Cambodia first with his family. He became radical while studying abroad, influenced by political theory and revolutionary ideas.
Wow.
When he returned home, Cambodia was unstable. Colonial influence and conflict shaped the environment, and revolutionary movements were gaining momentum. Over time, Salith Sar, which was his original name, became Pol Pot and rose through the Khmer Rouge ranks. So remember, the Khmer Rouge was a radical communist regime.
Okay.
So he rose through their ranks, and his ideology hardened.
So just to recap, he at a young age was sent to a Buddhist monastery, and then he went to France for a while and got exposed to communism and Marxism. Came back, and there was already kind of a communist thing brewing in Cambodia.
Yes.
Wow. So influenced by a lot of ideas.
Over time, he became Pol Pot, and then his ideology kind of solidified. These are some of the things that his ideology preached, which was society was seen as corrupt, as it was. Cities were seen as decay, and education was seen as dangerous.
Wow. Interesting.
Eventually, his theory or ideology became policy, and policy became force.
Yeah. I wonder why he became so against cities. I've not really heard that in like communist or Marxist thinking. Maybe it's just because cities then gain their own like political structure, more power.
It definitely could be.
Whereas if you don't have cities or like intellectuals, people learning a lot, you just kind of like keep the masses all at the same level.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know.
Could be. Do you think, I mean, we're talking about a guy who has really radical ideas or had really radical ideas. A question I thought of was, do you think radical ideas can be good ideas, or do they have to be governed first, governed into like less radical ideas?
I mean, yes, I think that there's lots of good radical ideas out there, but I think that often society needs a slower introduction into them just for the sake of humanity.
Yeah.
People not revolting or becoming overwhelmed. Like, I think that women getting the right to vote was a little bit of a radical idea back in the day. And so kind of over time, different rights were given to women. But that was a radical good idea.
Yeah.
But I think if they just like in a day were like, all right, then that might not have gone over so well.
Yeah.
Same thing with like ending slavery, or that black people were just as valuable as white people was a radical idea. To the point we fought wars over it all over the world. But again, you know, that lingered in society, you know, that quick change that the Civil War was won and now slaves are freed. That still, you know, is a quick adaptation to a radical idea, but society didn't catch up for a long time.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I don't know. It's just my off-the-cuff meanderings.
I love it. So a couple facts about what actually happened during his rule to make him one of the villains of history we discuss. So, like we said, the core idea that he believed was modern society was corrupt, and the only form of pure life was agrarian labor, which I think came from his family rearing, which was he was raised in a farm family.
Okay.
A wealthy farm family.
Interesting. So he saw that farming was a valuable way to spend your life.
Yes. And everything else had to be removed.
Wow.
So this is pretty wild. I've never seen another dictator do this the way that he did this. But in April 1975, right after the Khmer Rouge took control of Cambodia, they ordered every major city to be emptied immediately.
Whoa. So this is the story from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially Phnom Penh, the capital. That meant millions of people were told to leave their homes within hours.
Wow.
Hospitals were emptied mid-treatment. Schools, businesses, and government buildings were shut down instantly, and people were forced to walk long distances into the countryside. There was no transition plan, and no warning, and no exceptions.
That's insane.
So here is their reasoning behind why they did this. The Khmer Rouge leadership believed cities represented corruption, Western influence, capitalism, and intellectualism. Their ideology, like we've discussed, was if you want a pure society, you must eliminate urban life completely.
Wow.
They wanted everyone to become rural agricultural workers. So what this looked like in reality was super chaotic and very devastating.
Yeah.
Hospitals had patients drug out of their beds to march. Elderly and sick people were forced to walk or they got left behind and they died. Families were separated during the evacuation. Food and water was extremely limited on the journey. So many died during the evacuation itself due to exhaustion, dehydration, or illness. Yeah, right? And then what they walked into was awful because leaving these cities, they weren't really like relocated in the normal sense. They were placed into collective farming camps or forced labor groups or strict political control zones. So then they're all told, this is your new society now.
Wow.
There's no wages, there's no private property, there's no personal freedom in any way that we understand it.
Just farm, you get food from that. That's your life.
That's your life. Yeah. So
what
communism.
a bizarre way to do things.
Yeah. The forced evacuation wasn't just like a relocation policy. It was a full-scale attempt to erase existing society overnight and replace it with this ideological experiment. So the regime controlled everything through constant surveillance, fear of suspicion, and some like arbitrary punishment. Like I mentioned earlier in the story, if you wore glasses, like glasses to see, they thought that this was you saying you were an intellectual. And so that arbitrary punishment came into play when it was just like, you wear glasses, we're going to beat you or kill you.
Wow, because you must be studying books.
Yes. Yeah. And we're all on the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the person's like, no, I just got bad eyesight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Like super small signs of education made you a target. So the human cost of all this was, I mean, it's not as large as the other costs that we've talked about for, what was the guy you talked about?
Genghis Khan
or
Mao,
which by the way, Pol Pot pulled some ideology from Mao.
I could see that.
Yeah. But the death toll wasn't...
Same time period.
A little bit afterwards.
Okay.
I think. But the death toll isn't as high as Mao. It's 1.5 to 2 million people.
Wow.
Died through starvation, disease, forced labor, or execution.
That's pretty crazy in 4 years.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Why do you think things escalated so quickly under Pol Pot's regime?
Well, I mean, it just seems like he didn't care about loss of life or really think things through, but he was just like, we're just going to restart. And the best way to do it is just literally do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. That's kind of like my takeaway is like, he didn't really think about the human costs of things.
No, or didn't care.
Or didn't care, yeah. And I think that's the real takeaway here is that when you put ideology over not necessarily kindness, but when you put ideology over viewing a human as somebody with a soul and like unlimited worth, like we see in the Bible, it's like our soul and our being, we are made in God's image, which makes us invaluable.
Right.
And when your ideology takes precedent over that invaluable person, then I think you've already walked into some very, very dangerous territory.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Huh. It's so fascinating to me because Mao, the guy we talked about last week, communist leader, China, pretty much started the Communist Party in China, right? Or was a part of it?
I think so.
Yeah. He had a really authoritarian father who was a farmer who also viewed intellectualism as bad and evil. Like he would punish Mao for trying to study or learn math or do books. So Mao, though, wasn't afraid of intellectualism and like learning and stuff. So kind of like thought farming was less than and started, joined the Communist Party and just kind of killed a bunch of people. So Pol Pot was the opposite. He was like, intellectualism's bad, farming's good. So it's like they both, drawing from the same like kind of ideologies of communism, had two very different takeaways.
Yeah.
And both ended up with millions of people dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And largely not because of their executions, I don't believe. It was because of the
starved to
systems.
death.
Yeah. And you see this in communism over and over and over, is people lose incentive. And when you force them out of their homes, of course,
Overnight,
there's going to be people dying of starvation, exhaustion, what have you. But when you take away the incentive that you're working for something other than not dying,
right?
I think you take away a lot of the person's will to live. Of course, there were long hours in these labor camps. It was unfair. These people were hurt. It was brutal. But communism over and over and over repeats this pattern of we're going to use people. Everybody's on the same level. Nobody's better than the other. And we're going to distribute everything equally. And people, it just never works out. And a lot of people always die.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's just because of the labor conditions. I think it's because people lose the will to live. But that's personally, that's just what I think.
Wow. So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So he reigned or ruled for 4 years. And then how did it end?
Prior to his death in 1997, Pol Pot had been ousted from the Khmer Rouge leadership by his longtime military commanders. He was sentenced to life imprisonment or house arrest.
Wow.
He died without ever being formally tried for his crimes against humanity. Some people think it was just he got old and died, and other people think it might have been suicide.
Interesting. So he kind of led the Communist Party for 4 years, and then kind of was like, there's a coup.
Yep.
Just take him out. Probably because like, hey, a lot of people died. This isn't going too well.
Isn't working.
Got to change plans.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he was imprisoned until his death.
For the rest of his life. But he died in 1998. We were alive.
That's crazy.
When he was alive.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
That's bizarre.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Wow. Another dictator I didn't know much about.
Yeah.
Huh.
Pol Pot.
Pol Pot.
No.
Fun to say.
Sounds delicious.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so delicious.
Bad man.
Bad guy.
Bad guy.
Not a good time.
Sounds like a great, I don't know, like a pot pie.
Oh, yeah. Or like a pulled pork.
Yeah. Pulled pork
Pol
pot
Pot.
pie. Pol
Look
Pot.
at that.
We're on to something.
We're going to redeem that name.
Wow. Okay. So how do you think we as society don't end up with something like Pol Pot again?
I think any ideology can become very, very dangerous. Like I said, when it discounts the valuable nature of a human being. So I think that's what I'm pulling from it. What about you?
I mean, yeah, just kind of like with all of these people who've gone through Genghis Khan, Mao, Queen Renova, they all were not elected
Yeah.
to be the ruler. Many of them just kind of took it by force, became, the ruler, the dictator. And so, I mean, we just got to have you vote everybody in, and you can only be the king, the queen, the president, the whatever, prime minister for 4 years, 8 years, something like that, I think is a big solution. But yeah, you just can't let people just decide to do that.
No, you can't. It's insane. Yeah, I'm very happy we live in the U.S. where we are.
That could never happen.
Yeah, because they've armed their citizens. Like the
Exactly.
amendment allowed us to be armed and fight against any regime that rises up. And so, yeah, these people didn't have that opportunity, and it really shows.
Yeah, that's crazy that overnight they're just like, hey, we're done with cities. Just start walking.
We're just restarting. It's crazy, which is the same.
Crazy movie concept. I'm surprised that there hasn't been something like that.
Yeah, I mean, only end of the world movies where
Yes.
everything's lost anyways. But who's Mao? Mao did something similar, and he just tried to start again. He just tried to restart civilization from the beginning.
Yeah.
And get rid of everything
Didn't
that was old,
figure
burned
out-
books and
Right. Didn't figure out. Well, even Queen Renova of Madagascar, she's like, all right, no more printing press.
yeah,
No more Bibles. No more anybody that's not Madagascarian
yeah.
is allowed here. Just kind of tried to shut stuff out.
That's a real trait of these types of people is they try to limit information from the past
Yeah.
or anything that disagrees with their own rhetoric.
Right. Yeah. The only
Oh, go ahead.
person Genghis Khan wasn't
Yeah.
that way. He was like, you can be whatever religion or culture you
Totally.
want, but you just have to follow me or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And your kids and
He
your
was
aunts and
kind
your
of-
dogs. Yeah.
He was very different. He's
Yeah.
cut from a different cloth for
Yeah.
sure.
very open to thoughts and ideas, but
Yeah.
if you wrong him at all, he's just going to take out the whole town.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
That's all I have.
There we go. Great topic.
Thank you.
Another dictator that I knew literally nothing about.
Same.
Yep.
Another dictator down.
Yep.